We're 2 months out from a big election with a lot of controversy still over the effort to steal the last one. Now, the first hearing since the Supreme Court narrowed aspects of Jack Smith's prosecution of Donald Trump occurred today, with Trump pleading not guilty to what was that revised indictment. And the judge there says she is not going to be affected by an election timeline. The court is not concerned with that, quote, electoral schedule. It's not going to be considered. And she ordered both sides to file new briefs since the Supreme Court immunity ruling, at which point she will, quote, determine whether further proceedings are necessary. The judge also rebuked Trump's attorney for further delay tactics, saying what you're trying to effect, the presentation of the evidence in this case, so as not to impinge on an election. The DOJ has also said that some new evidence could come to light because, quote, the briefs might contain things that are both in and outside the indictment. These are the new briefs, including transcripts from the grand juries or the interviews. So for an update on this big case, we are joined by Christy Greenberg, former federal prosecutor. How are you?
Doing well, thanks. How are you?
I'm good. Jack Smith responded to the Supreme Court ruling. He removed, as we've shown, the DOJ part of the interference, but kept much of the plot. What does today's hearing tell us?
Well, one thing that struck me from this order is that there's been a lot of talk about whether we're getting a mini trial before the election. Mm-hmm. It seems pretty clear from this schedule that that is not going to happen. The briefing on immunity will be completed a week before the election. So we'll at least see, hopefully, depending on what's sealed and not sealed, we'll see at least, I would expect, maybe not all the exhibits, but we'll see much of the briefing. And that at least will be what we get in writing before the election. It's an extraordinary thing to think about a week before going into an election that one of the presidential candidates is in court defending against allegations he stole the last one. It's just extraordinary.
If Trump were to win the election, then in all likelihood he could constitutionally dismiss all this. He would also be a sitting president, and everyone remembers the rule that if you're the sitting president, the federal Justice Department does not prosecute you. We've never, as you mentioned, have a situation where you were previously indicted and then assumed office, but that's what we expect. If Trump loses, however, then what do we know about this case? That in basically the months after the swearing in of his opponent, this would just go forward? He would face trial?
Yes. There is no trial date set. Judge Chutkan said today it would be futile to set one because this is clearly going to get appealed. Any decision she makes on immunity will get appealed. But she did make it very clear she wants to get this show on the road. She wants to get this moving. She called out every delay tactic attempt from Trump's lawyers and set a schedule that really all of the issues that Trump wants to brief, not just immunity, but this issue of whether the special counsel is legitimate, issues of obstruction, all of that's getting briefed and will be completed by November. So she is moving this case along.
We're going to pull up the arrows of the plots, which I've shown viewers as we've tracked this over time. And on these arrows, what you see is what's been indicted, and the DOJ interference, as I mentioned, has been pulled out. Now that we have the official acts ruling from the Supreme Court, which is new and benefits Trump, but we live in a nation of laws. That's now the law. Can you walk us through why some of these things would still, at least according to the DOJ, not be official acts and thus be indictable?
Well, one obvious one is the pressuring of the state officials and, with respect to what the state officials were going to certify in each state. Even Justice Barrett says with respect to those, I don't see how this could possibly be an official act of the president. This seems quite clearly Trump as a candidate, not as the president. So that's sort of one bucket.
Let me slow you down on that. So according to the Supreme Court, if a president calls the DOJ and says, hey, Attorney General, you work for me. I want you to do something illegal. Wild as it sounds, that might not be prosecutable as an official act, right?
Right.
But you're saying that if he calls other people in the United States that have nothing to do with the chain of command of the federal government and says, hey, I want you to do something illegal, there's no official acts defense for that.
Right. I mean, the state officials acting to certify their own state's proceedings, that has nothing to do with the president of the United States. That's state versus federal. He's got no statutory or constitutional duty with respect to that. Hard to imagine how that could be seen as an official act.
And what if a jury in Washington says, I don't know, it's all really confusing, and that becomes a reasonable doubt?
It could, but there are so many different schemes here, right? That's one aspect. We also have the events connected to January 6th. There's going to be a lot of scrutiny in this briefing about all of the former president's tweets, what he was doing on that day, who was organizing the rally. These are the questions that the Supreme Court said we need more information. We want to know what other communications were happening at that time so that we can see not just the content of those communications, but the broader context to figure out whether it's official or unofficial.